My name is Mark, and for most of my life, I believed one simple thing. If you weren't moving forward, you were falling behind. That idea worked pretty well for me. Good grades in high school, business degree, corporate job in Chicago by 24. By 30, I had my own apartment on the 22nd floor, a leased black sedan, and a watch that cost more than my brother's monthly salary. And that was the problem. My younger brother, Liam, never seemed to move forward. He still lived in our hometown, still drove the same old pickup truck he'd had since college, still worked at a small hardware store near our parents' house. Every time I visited, it felt like stepping back in time. Same streets, same diners, same slow rhythm. And there was Liam, right in the middle of it, like he'd pressed pause on his life. At least that's how I saw it. Family dinners were the worst. My mom would cook too much food, my dad would talk about the weather, and Liam would sit there quietly, listening, smiling, nodding. And sooner or later, I'd say something. "So, Liam, still at the store?" He'd shrug. "Yeah, it's fine." "That's it? Just fine?" I'd laugh. "Man, you're 30. You ever think about doing something bigger?" My mom would shoot me a look. My dad would clear his throat. But Liam, he'd just smile, that same small smile. "Not everything has to be big," he'd say. That answer always irritated me. It felt like an excuse, like he didn't have any real ambition. One night, about 6 months ago, we were all sitting around the dinner table again. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, same old setting. I'd just come from work, still in my suit. My phone kept lighting up with emails, and every time it buzzed, I felt a small rush of importance. At some point, my mom asked Liam, "How was work today?" He shrugged. "Busy. A guy came in looking for parts for his old furnace. Took me an hour to find the right piece." "That's your big story?" I said, half laughing. "Helping someone fix a furnace?" Liam didn't answer. I leaned back in my chair. "You know, you're too smart to be stuck in that place. You're just wasting time." The room went quiet. My dad stared at his plate. My mom's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Liam looked at me for a few seconds. Not angry, not sad, just tired. Then he said softly, "I'm not stuck, Mark. I just chose something different." I shook my head. "Yeah, you chose to stay small." He didn't argue. He didn't defend himself. He just nodded once and kept eating. At the time, I felt like I'd won the argument. Looking back now, I think that was the moment something between us quietly broke.
After that dinner, things between me and Liam didn't explode. There was no big fight, no dramatic shouting, just a slow, quiet distance. He stopped texting first. When I called, he answered, but the conversations felt shorter, safer, like we were both walking around something we didn't want to touch. A few weeks later, my mom called me. "Liam's been working extra shifts," she said. "Why?" I asked. He didn't say, just told me not to worry about it. I didn't think much of it. In my mind, it was just more proof that he was stuck in that small town cycle. Meanwhile, my own life was moving fast. My boss started giving me bigger projects, longer hours, more responsibility. I liked it. Every late night at the office felt like another step forward, another small win. Then one Friday afternoon, I was called into a meeting. Not with my boss, with human resources. That's never a good sign. The HR manager gave me a tight smile and said, "Mark, the company is restructuring. Your position has been eliminated." Just like that. No warning, no dramatic speech. Just a folder slid across the table and a handshake. I remember walking out of that building with my box of things, a coffee mug, a framed photo, a few notebooks, feeling like someone had quietly erased my life. For the first few days, I told myself it was temporary. "I'll get another job in no time," I said. "I've got experience, connections, a strong resume." But weeks passed. Interviews came and went. Nothing stuck. My savings started shrinking. The car payment felt heavier every month. My expensive apartment suddenly looked less like success and more like a trap. One night, after another rejection email, I sat alone in my living room. City lights blinked outside my window, but inside everything felt strangely quiet. I opened my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Most of the people I'd called friends were really just coworkers, people I grabbed drinks with after work, people who had their own lives now. Then my eyes stopped on one name, Liam. I hadn't called him in weeks. I almost skipped over it. My ego told me, don't do it. You don't need help. But the silence in my apartment felt heavier than my pride, so I pressed call. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Mark," he said. His voice sounded the same as always, calm, steady. "Everything okay?" I opened my mouth, but the words didn't come out right. "Yeah, not really," I admitted. "I lost my job." There was a short pause, not the awkward kind, just the kind where someone is thinking. Then he said, "You want to come home for a few days?" Home. I hadn't used that word for a parent's house in years. "I don't know," I said. "I've got stuff to figure out here." "You don't have to figure it out alone," he replied. Simple words, no judgment, no "I told you so." And somehow that made me feel worse than any lecture could have. A week later, I packed a small bag and drove back to my hometown. The closer I got, the slower everything felt. Fewer cars, wider streets, same old gas stations, and grocery stores I remembered from high school. It felt strange, like stepping into a memory I didn't belong to anymore. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, Liam's old pickup was parked outside. Same faded blue paint, same dent on the front bumper. Nothing about it had changed. Liam opened the front door before I even knocked. "Hey," he said, like I'd just come back from work, not from another city. "Hey," I replied. No hug, no speech, just a quiet understanding between us. That night, we sat in the kitchen while our mom cooked dinner. The smell of garlic and butter filled the air. It was the same kitchen we'd grown up in, but I felt like a guest. "So," Liam said, leaning against the counter, "what's the plan?" I shrugged. "I'm applying everywhere. Chicago, New York, even Dallas. Anywhere that pays well." He nodded. "Makes sense." "What about you? Still at the store?" "Yeah, mostly mornings now." "Mornings?" He hesitated for a second. "Yeah, afternoons are for other stuff." "What stuff?" I asked. Before he could answer, our mom walked in carrying a tray. "Dinner's ready." We sat at the table. Same plates, same chairs, same quiet rhythm. Halfway through the meal, my dad stood up slowly and reached for his coat. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Physical therapy. Liam's driving me." I frowned. Physical therapy? Since when? My mom and Liam exchanged a quick look. "Since about 8 months ago," she said softly, "after his back surgery." The fork in my hand stopped mid-air. "Back surgery?" I repeated. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "We didn't want to worry you. You were busy with work." I looked at Liam. "You've been driving him to therapy this whole time?" "Yeah, 3 times a week. It's not a big deal." "And the extra shifts?" I asked. "Just covering some of the medical bills," he said casually. "Insurance didn't take care of everything." I stared at him, trying to process it. 8 months. While I was buying expensive watches and complaining about emails, he was working extra hours, driving our dad to therapy and holding the house together. And I had called him a failure. The word echoed in my head like a bad joke. Failure. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my old bedroom, staring at the ceiling, replaying every dinner, every comment, every smug little joke I'd made about his life. For the first time, I started to wonder, maybe I hadn't been the successful one after all. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Sunlight filtered through the kitchen window, hitting the old wooden table. For a moment, everything felt like it used to when we were kids. Then I heard the front door open. Liam walked in carrying 2 paper coffee cups. He handed one to me. "Figured you'd want the good stuff," he said. I took it. "Thanks." We stood there in silence for a few seconds, the kind of silence that isn't uncomfortable but isn't easy either. "Hey, about what I said at dinner a while back, the whole failure thing." Liam leaned against the counter. "It's fine," he said. "You didn't know." "That doesn't make it okay," I replied.
He didn't answer. I stared at the coffee in my hands. I thought success meant leaving this place. Bigger job, bigger city, bigger everything. That's what you wanted, he said. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I said slowly, but I never stopped to think about what you wanted. He shrugged. I like it here. Store's 5 minutes away. Mom and Dad need help. It just made sense. Did you ever think about leaving? I asked. Once, he said. Got an offer in Denver. Better pay, bigger company. What happened? He took a sip of his coffee before answering. Dad slipped on the porch the same week, messed up his back. After that, it didn't feel right to go. So you just stayed? Yeah. He said it so simply. No drama, no pride. Just a quiet decision that changed his whole life. I felt something tighten in my chest. All those times I'd talked about promotions, bonuses, stock options, and he had been quietly choosing family over all of it. I'm sorry, I said. He looked at me. For what? For calling you a failure, for not seeing what you were really doing. He gave a small smile. You were just measuring life with a different ruler. That line stayed with me. A different ruler. Maybe success wasn't just about how far you moved away. Maybe it was also about who you stayed close to. A week later, I was still living at home, still sending out resumes, but something inside me had shifted. One afternoon, Liam asked, "You want to come with me to the store? We're short a guy today." I almost laughed at the idea. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have even considered it. But instead, I said, yeah, sure. It wasn't glamorous. No glass offices, no fancy suits. Just shelves, tools, and customers asking simple questions. But for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was falling behind. I just felt useful. My name is Mark, and for years, I thought my brother was the failure. Turns out he was the one holding the family together, while I was too busy chasing numbers to notice.